Hello, everybody. What are we on? We're on episode 42.
42.
42. It's like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The answer to the universe and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Is
The answer to everything is 42.
42. I haven't had some, but I'm not sure you're going to like it. Anyway, so it is Sunday, July 10th. It's about a little after 3 p.m. And so, this is kind of a dead period in sports right now. Not a lot going on. But, this is kind of cool. We get to dive into our bag a little bit. I don't know, a while back we did our legendary sports take, so this can be kind of fun.
Yeah,
so,
if you want to know how much of a dead period it is, you just turn on ESPN or FS1 or the radio and they're just digging for topics. They're just trying to. They're analyzing Aaron Rodgers' new tattoo. They're literally they're just reaching, man, because they don't have anything.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. They're just reaching for NFL topics because God forbid we talk about baseball, the sport that's actually going on right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a topic for another day. But the first amount of news that came up this week was Baker Mayfield was finally unceremoniously traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Carolina Panthers. They gave up a conditional 5th round pick or something, and Cleveland paid most of his salary.
Right.
So not only did Baker had to take a little bit of a pay cut, which they basically turned into incentives. So it's basically a pay cut. And then, Cleveland basically had to pay most of his salary for him to go away. So, my first take is, it's just, it's amazing how much of a failure the Cleveland Browns are. That, this is the situation that they've put themselves in because they had to go all in to get Deshaun Watson. But it's a very, I've been saying the whole time, he'll get traded as soon as somebody wants to pick up most of his salary, or Cleveland wants to pick up most of his salary. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as they figured out the money, that's what happened. And so, my hope is that we can put this thing to bed because, it's just a ridiculous, I don't think we should talk this much about, and there's going to be a quarterback battle now, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. And it's we're going to really spend all this time talking about two guys that really aren't any good.
Yeah. It's, there's not much to talk. Colin has been talking about Baker Mayfield for years when there really wasn't any reason to talk about him. Other than he says different stuff, and it's just it's just red meat he can just, dig into whenever he wants. But, he's not that good. When I listen to Nick Wright talk about it, and I'm just people will blow up the fact that he won one playoff game. And it's okay, he won a playoff game, but there's plenty of guys who won a playoff game. It doesn't mean that they're an elite quarterback. And Baker Mayfield throws a ton of interceptions. Okay? And so we're going this nuts over a guy who basically had one good year.
Right.
And he was he had a good year on a team that had a really good offense. They had a lot of talent on offense. So,
right. Yeah, it's I don't see how first of all, Carolina's not a good team.
Yeah,
so
no.
I don't see how this change. It's not going to dramatically change anybody's fortune. This is a coaching staff that's trying to keep their jobs.
Yep.
So they've basically made the move for this guy. And is he better than Sam Darnold? I
don't know.
You could make the argument that he is, but it really doesn't matter. Neither guy is good enough to take your franchise anywhere.
Well, they're definitely not good enough to take a bad team somewhere. That's even the most important thing. Baker Mayfield had one good year on a team that had really good running backs and a good offensive line and good receivers. So he doesn't really. I'm not saying Carolina's awful. Their offensive line isn't that great, But I mean, yeah, it's not the same thing as Cleveland. So, and we've seen him in the past when there's been dysfunction or there's not a lot of talent. Like, he's not that good. So,
yeah, it's really kind of much ado about nothing. I don't. This isn't going to change anybody's franchise. And now that he's on a bad team, it basically means it won't. I don't. But somehow I think Baker Mayfield will be a national story. I guess like people would claim he's polarizing. I guess he is.
Do you really care? I don't care.
Right. I don't understand why he's that big a topic. Yes, he was a number one pick. Okay. But what's there that makes him so fascinating?
Well, and the funny thing is, I can remember a few years ago, like Nick Wright would talk about it, and he would get into arguments with Colin Cowherd. He would say that, well, I'm fine with Baker being outspoken and not doing quarterback speak all the time and whatever. And it's like, forget that. Who cares? He's not that good. Okay?
Right.
Like Aaron Rodgers is, he's kind of a jackass, but he's won 2 MVPs in a row. So he's really good. So, all right, you put up with it. I mean,
Right. Yeah, it's a we've talked about this before. It's a sliding scale in sports. You got to be, if you're going to be a problem in certain areas, then you better be really good. You better win games, because if you don't, and so he could get away with it in Cleveland because Cleveland had a good team, so he was able to win games.
Right.
But I guess the bigger issue is honestly what Cleveland's going to do with this, and how this is starting to look like could be one of the most disastrous trades in the history of sports, because of not the Baker Mayfield part, but the Deshaun Watson part. That you basically kicked Baker Mayfield out, which, okay, it's probably the right thing to do football wise, because Deshaun Watson's a better player, and there's not really an argument for that. Deshaun Watson's been a better quarterback, period. So, but we'll see, because he's supposed to get the punishment, whatever it's going to be, is supposed to come down hopefully next week or something. So,
right.
So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it just kind of like, as soon as this happened, it just launched every show. All right, this is what we're going to talk about, because there's nothing going on right now. If this happened in October, no one would care.
Yeah. Well, and to the shock of no one, Skip Bayless loves Baker Mayfield. I mean, he was on, I don't know which day it was, on Undisputed talking about it. And just, okay, look, when we're talking about NFL players and how they are in the NFL, I don't want to hear about what they did in college. It doesn't matter, But Skip Bayless starts, goes into like a 5-minute thing about, well, Baker Mayfield was a walk-on in college, and, he won the Heisman Trophy, and, oh, my God, he played against this team, and he was so good, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, fine, yeah, he was really good in college. He won the Heisman Trophy. Like, yeah, you got to be pretty damn good to win the Heisman Trophy, and you got to be pretty good to walk on at Oklahoma. But, then he's starting with the NFL stuff. He goes, oh, well, he won 7 games in his first year. And it's like, yeah, and he threw a bunch of interceptions. And he wasn't like, and then Shannon Sharp was saying, well, he couldn't make things work with Odell Beckham and Odell Beckham Jr. And, of course, Skip Bayless blames Odell Beckham Jr. for that. He doesn't blame Baker Mayfield, which is just hilarious to me, how he basically picks favorites and then he'll make every excuse in the book for someone he really likes, but he won't make for someone he doesn't like. He won't make any excuses for them ever on anything,
Right.
So I just that's of course he likes Baker Mayfield. Of course he likes Tebow. Of course he likes. I'm kind of surprised he likes Tom Brady. I feel like if you wanted to, you could make an argument that Brady's had some good fortune in a lot of ways. But whatever. He's got his favorites, and it's a clown show. He's doing what he does, but it's just like,
right.
I get more annoyed with Colin Cowherd talking about Baker Mayfield so much, and Nick Wright seeming to defend it. Like, what are we talking about here? He's not that good. Right. I know we've said that about 15 times by now, but it's like,
Yeah, it's amazing how much play he gets, for not being a really good player. It's just kind of like, it'd be like if we came on here and started talking about Patrick Beverley for 30 minutes when we're breaking down a basketball series. It's like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
It's just, so strange. So, but anyway, I had a couple NFL things before we get into our, we have a big NFL topic. So I want to shout out, some of our comments on YouTube. So, well, first of all, this is a separate, actually, let me look at this. So when we did our podcast about Kevin Durant deserving blame, this is, his name on YouTube is Elijah Guess.
Okay.
And so one of the comments, so one of the comments he made was, first of all, shout out to you, Elijah. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
And he said, I thought he's told everyone already he don't want to be a leader and instead leads by example with his work ethic. What KD really should get blamed for was the Boston series, because as a whole, he didn't play bad and they got swept because KD had a D series. Remember, none of the games were lost by more than 7 points, so they could have won at least 2 of those games with this C-plus game, and then we'd see see the rest of the series. So basically what he's saying is that Kevin Durant deserves more blame for the Boston series than like leading the team. So before we comment on it, before you say anything, what I replied back to him was, that's a good point about the Boston series. I think there's probably some truth to the idea that guys like Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard have limitations when it comes to leadership. So basically he's saying, we shouldn't blame Durant for not being a leader, because, he's leading by example. He should be blamed for the Boston series though.
Yeah. I mean, okay. But I mean, remember, I think we're kind of talking about, you chose to come to Brooklyn. You said that they had to bring Kyrie Irving along with you. You said they needed to bring in DeAndre Jordan. You guys pushed for them to trade for James Harden, which blew up the rest of the team around them. You guys picked Steve Nash to be the head coach when he had no head coaching experience. If I'm not necessarily going to criticize him for not being an in-game leader. Some guys just aren't like that, which is fine, but you need to have that on the team. And also, those games were close, and Brooklyn couldn't close it out. Why couldn't they close it out? Well, that tends to happen when you've got a team where you don't have a lot of chemistry, things aren't really together, and you guys haven't been playing together enough, and you don't have a coach who's really got buy-in from everybody. Because, I mean, no offense to Steve Nash, it's just he hasn't won anything, so how can he have any credibility with players? That is a big thing with players, where if they're being coached by a guy who's been to the finals or a guy who's won a championship, he's already got more credibility in the locker room when he's telling them what to do. So, I think he made some good points, but I mean, it would be too simplistic to say, well, they, all those games are close. Yeah, they were close, but I mean, Brooklyn just couldn't close it out. They didn't have they couldn't get stops when they needed to. They couldn't get easy baskets when they needed to. And that speaks to, just the whole construction of the team, which you can blame Kevin Durant for because, he helped initiate that. Yeah,
I guess what I would, I agree with all of that. What I would say is, I guess, the reason that I think he deserves blame is that if I'm the front office, right, and I'm bringing this guy in, right, I'm expecting you to hang in there, while we go through whatever we have to go through, and not just bail, on, when you have 4 years left on your deal, so I just think, I'm not saying he is making all the decisions, but I'm saying he has influence. And when it comes out that you're upset that the organization didn't listen to Kyrie, I mean, you're contributing to you can't be the best player on this team and then act like, oh, I don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. No offense, but we're expecting, when I take you, I'm expecting you to be the face of my franchise.
Yep.
So yes, there is some more responsibility on that. Sorry if you don't like it, but that's the way it is. Now, the argument that I said about, that I made about, well, Durant and Kawhi are not necessarily leaders. Okay, that's fine. But when you're the best player on my franchise and things don't go well, it comes down on you a little bit.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way it is. So yes, and I don't like this world, and I think Kyrie and the Brooklyn front office get all the attention, and I think Kevin Durant should get more criticism for this, because I'm supposed to bring you into my team now. How do I know you're not going to just be unhappy in a year?
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Anyway, but thank you for the comment, though. That was a very good point about the Boston series. So this is a comment. This is a comment that I just thought this was funny. So I was, I'm watching. I'm hate watching YouTube for Dolphins videos. People trying to convince me that the Dolphins are going to be awesome next year, and Tua is going to have a breakout year. So, I went, it was low hanging fruit, but I went for it anyway. So I was watching a video called, Why Tua Will Break Out Next Year.
Okay. And who did the video?
Nobody you would know. Okay. But it was very well done. The guy whoever this is did a very good job. Basically broke down, Tua coming into the league and the problems that the Dolphins had. And so there was a comment, about 4 weeks ago that said, typical of most of these people watching this are Dolphin and Tua defenders. Like, nobody's watching this being critical of it. Like, this is you're watching this video if like you're looking for fun Dolphin stuff, right? So right. One of the comments was, first of all, coming from the hip injury, he should have never been starting in 2020. Second year, worst O-line in the league with conflicts with the head coach and rumors he was going to replace with Watson. We should be thankful this kid still wants to wear our Dolphin colors. He's going to shine in 2022, guaranteed. So anyway, I don't want to comment on that, but I'm just giving you an example of those are the type of YouTube comments being left. Okay. This is not a lot of, nobody's being real critical of this. It's basically all Dolphins love, which I get. So then I couldn't resist. So I commented and I said, the conversation about Tua is all about standards. The standard when you draft a QB in the top 5 is that he becomes the guy. The QB that keeps you in contention for championships. The Dolphins have been stuck in the same place since Marino retired. Having a slightly above average QB is just not good enough. Yes, I understand Tua hasn't been helped by his organization as much as they should have, but that argument gets trampled on when Joe Burrow takes an equally bad offensive line to the Super Bowl. It was a mistake to draft Tua over Herbert, but the Dolphins should be blamed for this. It is not Tua's fault he's not good enough. It's the Miami Dolphins' vast incompetence that dooms them. The problem is that I believe Tua will have a good year in 2022 and probably throw over 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions or something like that, and then it's Ryan Tannehill all over again. Miami will give Tua a second contract that he doesn't deserve, and the Dolphins will be in no man's land for another 5 years. The smart NFL teams make smart decisions, and Miami doesn't. As a Dolphins fan, I hope they go 5-12 this year and draft a new QB. So I give my entire soliloquy, right? I give a first take worthy take. Right?
Yeah.
Where you just go and talk and blah, 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 blah for however long, and then the other person comes in. I got one comment on this. Okay? This is from _Tarzan. He says, yeah, you're weird. End of comment.
All right.
Can I get an amen?
There you go. Yeah, you're weird.
I testified. I gave you the whole spiel, man. I gave you my heart and soul. God damn you, YouTube. I gave YouTube my whole heart and soul. They gave me nothing.
I don't know, man. Whatever.
God, I mean, really? It's like, and by the way, it's paragraph comments all the way down. You watch this video, it's just paragraphs upon paragraphs. People just saying all kinds of stuff. And then I can't get, I just can't get, oh my God. Anyway.
Well, it depends how many people are looking at it,
I think it got a good amount.
That far in the comments.
I think it got a good amount of views, though.
Oh, right.
It got, so this is the videos from 416J, and it's got 39,992 views. So, not spectacular. But anyway, the video opens with Tua throwing a touchdown in the national championship game in college.
All
right, so all right, so that's our YouTube comments for today. Really appreciate everybody who's people who comment on our videos. It's fantastic. So anyway, so you wanted to, we decided we were going to talk about elite quarterbacks. This discussion came up this week.
Yeah.
About elite quarterbacks. So I'm going to let you go ahead. You have the floor.
Well, first of all, let me just explain something to people, okay? And I'm going to sound like a grammar Nazi here, but whatever. The word elite is an exclusionary term, okay? There can only be a small group. If you're taking a group of people and then trying to determine who is elite among that group, it's going to be a small amount of people from that group, okay? You can't have half the group be elite. You can't have, literally, you can't have 40% of the group be elite. I mean, really, you're looking at like 10%, 15, maybe 20, maybe. That's what you're kind of looking at when you're thinking of elite quarterbacks. So in the NFL, there's 32 teams, okay? So, and you can only, I guess you got 32 starting quarterbacks out of that, but some teams, who the starting quarterback is changes throughout the season because they're not a good team and they don't have a good quarterback. But let's just, for the sake of argument, have 32, okay? As far as I can tell, if you're going to have elite quarterbacks out of 32, there's going to be like 6, 7, because after that, you get to a point where you look at quarterbacks and you just see limitations and you have questions. Not that once you get past the 6th or 7th best quarterback, they suck. No, there's still a few in there that are pretty good, but you have questions about them. Then once you kind of get beyond that group, then you start getting into, okay, either this guy's young and we don't know yet, or we kind of know and they just kind of suck. All right, so let me just start off with who I think are the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. And these are not in any order because I think that gets into splitting hairs. Okay. And I can do this pretty quickly because basically these quarterbacks I don't really have questions about, and if I need to defend them, I can. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. We'll put Stafford in there because he just won the Super Bowl and he was really good throughout the playoffs. He's got the talent, and obviously he got into a good situation and then won the Super Bowl, so he's pretty damn good. Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to put Brady there. Hang on a sec. Susie, stop. Sorry, dog making noise. Okay, so I got Mahomes, Allen, Josh Allen, Rodgers, Brady, Stafford. The only thing I'll say about Brady is that he's older now, and I do have kind of some questions about him beating good teams, but he had a really good year last year. Okay?
Right.
And he's obviously been in a bunch of close games and, all that stuff. We don't need to get into it. So I think that's 5, right? Mahomes, Josh Allen, Stafford, Brady, Rodgers. Rodgers, he's getting older, but he's still incredibly talented and just won 2 MVPs in a row. So,
right. So if we said 8 elite quarterbacks, that's 25% of the league. Is that
okay? Yeah. Well, let's see. So I got 5. I'm trying to think who else I probably have there.
What about Russell Wilson?
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do with Russell Wilson. I'm gonna put him in the next tier, but that could change immediately. That could literally change within 2 weeks. I think he had some injuries last year. He was in a bad situation. Let me just see him kind of get back to him. He probably will, but let me just see him get back to himself. So I'm trying to think beyond that.
What about, we're not going to put Deshaun Watson on there yet, right? Because we got to see him come back and play.
He's been out for over a year. I'm trying to think of who else. I'm not putting.
So
Dak Go ahead.
Right. The only other, the choices that I see, basically, then we're in Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow territory.
Oh, that's right. That's what I was trying to think of. Okay. I'm going to put Burrow in there.
Okay.
So that's 6. And then I'm going to put Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert right after that. Because Herbert, he hasn't made the playoffs yet. Now, some of that's not really his fault. His idiot coach keeps going for it on 4th down. I think Herbert's incredible, and he's probably going to get in there. But I'll put Burrow in there just because he just got to the Super Bowl with that team. Mm-hmm. So nearly won the game. Um, I still have some questions about it, but I'll put them in there. So I guess I've got, what was that, 6? It's like Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, Josh Allen.
That's 6.
Stafford, and Burrow.
You're going to put Burrow? Yeah, right. You put Burrow in the 6. Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm saying I'll put Herbert and Russell Wilson right after that. And then after that, I get into – because those guys, they're like right on the bubble. And then after that, I get to guys where I'm like, you're not an elite quarterback. You're a tier below that. You're pretty good. You're reliable up to a point. But I don't necessarily think you can beat good teams, and I don't really think I can rely on you to win multiple games in the playoffs. Like,
if you put – well, but if you just do, you're saying Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, if you put them all in that next category and you say they've got a chance to be up there, that's 8.
Okay.
So that's your 8 elite quarterbacks. You're basically saying there's 6, including Deshaun would be 9. So you're basically saying there's 6, and then there's 3 more that could get in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And you're obviously not going to put Lamar Jackson at the.
I'm not Lamar. I've got to see more, and he's kind of declined a little bit each year. So I got to see more. Dak Prescott, look, he's a good leader. He has good intangibles. He's kind of consistent for what he does. I mean, he basically gives you the same thing every game, but I don't really think I can rely on him to beat good teams, particularly in the playoffs. I mean, everyone last year was focusing on him trying to do that quarterback sneak on the last play of the game, and he played like crap most of the game. Offensively, they didn't do anything. So I can't, Kirk Cousins, he's won a playoff game, but, he doesn't make the playoffs all the time. Tannehill, look, I like Tannehill. I mean, if this version of Tannehill was on the Dolphins now, I'd be like, all right, I'm cool with that. I'll roll with this for a few years. But, I mean, look, if he's playing against better teams, can you rely on him a lot to throw the ball? But he's been pretty consistent the last few years. They've made the playoffs. Like, that's something. But it's like Dak Prescott, It's like if we could get something better, okay, but if he's the guy on your team, all right, you're kind of, there's some consistency there, and then
so then I had is my elite category. I had those 9 that we talked about, and then I had a question mark next to Lamar Jackson. So basically, I'm in line with you, and I agree with you on what you said. Now, if you ask me, I'm in on Russell Wilson. I think he's going to be good.
And like I said, I'm probably going to flip that like right away. It's just he had some injuries. He was in a bad situation. Let me just see him flip it around, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, you're in.
Yeah, and I believe, I think we got to wait on Deshaun Watson, but I believe in him. I think he's going to be in that category. So then the next category I did after the elite with those 10, well, obviously I'm not including Lamar, but then I put interchangeable. So these are the guys who they can win you games. Like a bunch of them have won playoff games. But, you're not putting them in that class where you're thinking we have a chance to win the Super Bowl this year just by having this guy as our quarterback.
Yeah.
So interchangeable list. So Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo. I put them because you could take any one of those guys you want. You're going to get basically the same from any one of those that you pick.
Yeah, and now if the roster around them, depending on how that is, there'd be fluctuations in how the team does. But right.
Exactly. I mean, I tend to like Derek Carr and Matt Ryan a little bit better than those other guys, but it's not like
right.
But I'm not going.
Yeah, Derek Carr. I do wonder because Josh McDaniels is a good offensive coach, and I think he's good with quarterbacks, and I think that is going to add something to Derek Carr. Does he get out of that next tier after that? I don't know. I mean, he's got Devontae Adams, so then, we'll see. I really like him, I mean, I think that he's been, like Colin Cowherd keeps pointing out that Derek Carr keeps winning games, even though there's all this chaos with the Raiders, which, so... But yeah, I still kind of got him in the next tier, like you. I like.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Colin Cowherd saying he's a top 10 quarterback, and I mean, I think he's right. I think he's
maybe I'll be there because I think McDaniels is going to add something this year. Is going to help make it better. But
he's right there. He's right there. If he's not 10th, if you don't have him above Lamar Jackson, then he's 11th. But he's right there. So, yeah. So that's like, all of those guys, like you're basically getting the same thing. Like I've been making the argument the Dolphins should try to get Jimmy Garoppolo because, he's solid, and I think you know what you're going to get from him. So the next list I made I called it "We're Waiting." So these are the guys who teams are rolling with this guy, but we don't have any evidence to suggest that they're going to get up to that elite category yet. Maybe they will, right? But we don't know. I wasn't going to put them in the interchangeable list because to me they haven't achieved the status to where it's like, okay, I know what I'm getting. I'm going to get this. It's going to be solid. These guys could either jump up over the top of the interchangeable guys into the elite category, or they could fall into the next category, which is moving on.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this is what I got for We're Waiting. Now, some of these you may have your own personal opinion on, but to me, we don't know that they're great. We don't know that they're terrible. Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Davis Mills, Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, Trey Lance.
I think I basically agree with you on all of those things, but I think I'm leaning more toward the Daniel Jones is let's move on.
Right. If you were asking me,
that's the only one I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, that one I struggled with. That was the probably guy you could probably move over. If you're asking my opinion, I think we can take Mac Jones off this list right now. Davis Mills, whatever. I just did this because these guys haven't played enough to where we don't know. Obviously, I think the best out of this list is Kyler. Kyler Murray's the guy who has a chance. He's the one guy who has a chance to get into the elite category.
He's got to stop tailing off at the end of the year. So
right. But I just put we're waiting because we still don't know, and Arizona still doesn't know. They still haven't given him a contract.
Right, exactly.
So they're still struggling with it. I think the Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, like they just haven't played enough. We just don't know. Their teams have all been pretty bad.
Yeah, Zach Wilson. We've seen he started 1 year, so it's too soon to say. And Trevor Lawrence. It's just. He needs some stability, and I think with Doug Peterson, that should be there at least for the next few years. So in another couple of years, we'll know with Trevor Lawrence what the potential is.
Right. I think if you were going to nail this down to guys that like, okay, this is it, this is your last chance, like you got to make it happen this year. I think it's Daniel Jones, obviously, Tua, Kyler, probably.
Yeah,
but the rest of them I think all have time. I don't think there's anybody that's like, oh, we gotta, Trey Lance is in a tough situation because the team is trying to win while they're trying to develop their quarterback, which is a challenging thing to do in the NFL. It's not an easy thing to do. And then, obviously, moving on, obviously we all know who these quarterbacks are. These are the guys who happen to have jobs somehow. So it's Jameis Winston, Mitch Trubisky, Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold, Drew Lock, Baker Mayfield, Teddy Bridgewater, and then I put Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Geno Smith. So I put a bunch of guys that are backups. A handful of those guys are backups. So obviously the league knows that, but I put them down because it's possible they could play some games this year in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's just crazy that we know that about Nick Foles, yet isn't there a statue of him outside of the Eagles Stadium? I just tip of the cap to you, Nick Foles, because you literally just you've tried to be a quarterback all your life. It hasn't really worked out, but for like a month, you were just like, it was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it was really 2 seasons because he had the Super Bowl run, and then the next year, remember they won that playoff game against the Bears.
That's right. Yeah.
And then they ended up losing to the Saints, but he was. So it looks like Nick Foles is going to end up on the Colts. That's what
Okay.
according to NFL.com. So anyway, yeah, and I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say about this. I mean, Jameis Winston, it's like you had your chance. I think New Orleans keeps him from being an interception machine. Mitch Trubisky is getting like a legit shot in Pittsburgh. So we'll see. I mean, to me, it's kind of like, yeah, I know what that is. That guy's a definition of a bridge quarterback, but I think, but
they're
Pittsburgh
paying him anything. Yeah.
Well, and Pittsburgh drafted a quarterback, so they obviously you see they don't think that highly of him. I got Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield on this list because it's like they're basically the same guy now.
Pretty much,
Link them together, and then there's not a whole lot to say. Those are the guys that it's like, yeah, we know, we've decided, we've all made up our minds on those guys.
Yeah.
So
I think that's, it's a good. I think we're kind of seeing stuff the same way. Yeah.
So
I think if I wanted to put like say I was going to do like a super elite category, then it would be like Mahomes, Josh Allen, and like, ooh, God, that gets tough. And then I would put Stafford there. And I know people are like, well, how can you not put Aaron Rodgers or Brady there? Well, they're older. I have a little bit of question about Brady beating good teams at this stage in his career. Those four dudes, I'm just like, if I got to go win a game, I feel really good about it. Particularly Josh Allen, because I think the Bills are going to the Super Bowl this year. But
yeah. All right. So we talked about Kevin Durant a little bit, but I had another NBA. I mean, well, just real quick. I mean, I think it's just, I think Durant, my sense of it is, my belief is, I think Durant's deal will get done. He'll get traded somewhere, but I think it may take some time because I think they're going to have to involve 2 or 3 other teams, and I think this may take some time. And I think
because Brooklyn should try to get a really good offer, and it's just going to be. I think it's not necessarily a game of chicken, but it's just kind of like Brooklyn wants this, and the other teams are like, well, we don't really want to give you all that, so let's we're going to wait it out, and we're going to see if one side moves sooner than the other, and maybe we can kind of get closer to reaching a deal.
Plus, I don't think there's you and I talked about this. I don't think there's a slam dunk move. Other than the Warriors. That's the only team where it's like, well, if they get Durant, I mean, chalk it up, it's over. They're the only team like that. I know everybody's talking about Toronto. I mean, if they have to give up Scotty Barnes and Anunoby, like let's say they keep Siakam.
What are we doing?
Let's say they keep Siakam. Even if they keep Siakam, I don't know how that's. You've got Durant, Van Vliet, and Siakam. That's going to be your championship team. Like they're good, they're a contender, but. That doesn't, again, it's not and let's say he went to New Orleans. Say they put some package with Brandon Ingram and got him to New Orleans. Okay, it's a good team, but I still don't know. I don't know what I'm getting from Zion, and I don't know, there's just question marks no matter where he goes. And, the idea of him, like let's say he goes, all right, again, he goes to Miami. Even if you manage to keep Bam and Jimmy Butler, okay, it's a good team. But it's not.
It's not. No, I mean, we're Miami Heat fans, and I'm like, I would love that, and I'd be like, all right, I could see it. I could see a scenario where we could win the championship, but it's not it's not like you said, it's not a slam dunk. It's like some things are going to have to go right. Some people are going to have to play well in certain situations. Like health is going to have to work out. Like it's a whole thing. It's not right.
So anyway, nothing's really going on with that right now. So we'll see. Obviously we'll be talking about whenever that move happens, or if it happens, doesn't happen, whatever. We'll be talking about it, for months to come. So, But my NBA topic was just kind of. So I was just kind of watching, going through YouTube NBA and watching some previous playoff rounds. Playoff games and stuff, and I watched the 2016 game where the Golden State Warriors played Oklahoma City, and Klay Thompson had 11 threes in the game 6 or whatever.
Yeah, I was watching that a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, incredible game. It's just funny to watch. Even going back, like 6 years ago, but basketball was it's still not the same game we're watching today. Like Oklahoma
Yeah.
City playing with all those big guys, it was just kind of like, wow, just the athleticism, in that series was incredible. And, like, to me, my big takeaway is that Steph Curry and the Warriors are better now than they were then. Like the way that they played, they were still like the offense was tremendous, but Steph was still like, to me, it's the best he's ever been right now. I don't agree with the people who act like he wasn't that good in the finals before. I don't agree with any of that, but I agree that Steph is a better player now. Maybe just because he's just been around longer, whatever. But it's a different battle. You could there were ways to contain Steph. Back then, he would go off every now and then, but there were ways to contain him. Now, I just don't feel like there's anything you can do. And what I kind of got stuck on was watching I couldn't find the full game, but I watched as much as I could of the Clippers Nuggets series in the bubble, where Clippers were up 3-1, Nuggets come back and beat them, and it's really it's one of those things because Denver has not been able to look like that since because of injuries and because of other stuff. So yeah. I just found it kind of fascinating, just the takes, the places we were all in before that series, first of all, the whole season prior, people picking the Clippers to win the title or get to the finals or right. be really good, and everybody just bashing the Lakers and just, oh, they're not a championship team. They don't have this. They don't have that. And what was really funny was like before the playoffs started, so they're getting ready to go back to the bubble. And this was like people talking about it before, making predictions beforehand. And there's about 5 minutes of Colin Cowherd going off about how the Lakers were not going to win the title because Avery Bradley wasn't going to the bubble. And it made me die laughing. I was just like, oh, that's it. Avery Bradley is going to be the reason that they don't win. So it just makes me laugh, like how insane the media goes over this stuff, where it's like, first of all, at the time, okay, it was a reasonable take to say the Clippers are deeper. They have the better defensive players. Right. They're the better team. And watching the regular season games, okay, I get it. But they just definitively like, oh, they're going to beat the Lakers. It's not even a competition. The Clippers have got this in the bag. It's done. It's over with. And then, Denver playing them, and everyone's blaming it on, well, the Clippers just don't, they're not really that interested in the regular season. So, that's the reason why. It's like, it's so funny how the sports media will make excuses for a team they think is, but they will just make every excuse in the book, right? Partly because of the way things had gone and partly because people love to hate on LeBron. So it just cracks me up that everybody said that about the Lakers, and then they go to the bubble and the Clippers just completely fall apart, and they completely, they blow double-digit leads in 3 straight games in the second halves of these games, and Denver was awesome. Jokic was just killing them. They had no idea how to defend him. And so, yeah, it makes me laugh the way we thought of the Clippers then and the way that they're treated now. And then watching, especially on First Things First, when they come on the day after the Clippers lost Game 7, and Nick Wright is just laughing, hysterically laughing, because he said this about the Clippers the whole time. My thought was, at the time was, all right, I can understand the people saying the Clippers have more talent, but I was just, my thought process was, I've never seen the Clippers do it. I'm going to go with LeBron. That was my thought process the whole time. Maybe it was foolish, whatever. Yes, I guess I get they're a less talented team. But the other thing was how people were ripping all the Lakers role players. Like before they go into the bubble, the role play, they can't do it with these guys. Come on, Contavious Caldwell Pope and Alex Caruso and whatever. These guys aren't going to win anything. And then the Lakers go into the bubble, and once, they lost a game to Portland and they lost a game to Houston, but basically when they were bringing it, they were dominating. They were basically just kicking everybody's butt. And by the way, on defense, The thing that everybody said, oh, they can't do this with this roster or whatever. They ripped the Lakers roster apart. The Lakers win the championship. Everybody's singing their praises about how smart they are. And then, they lose the next year in the playoffs and they make the Westbrook trade and then everybody's against it again. It's like, no, you can't do it with this roster, blah, blah, blah. It just proves to me, it's like something that William Goldman said, in one of his books about the film industry, which is just, nobody knows anything. They don't know a thing. They have no idea how this is going to work. We have no idea how this is going to go. And that leads me into my thing about the Clippers, where the Clippers have now become the sexy pick this next season. Everybody's like, oh, well, Kawhi gets healthy, blah, blah, blah. First of all, this doesn't necessarily mean anything, but Kawhi hasn't been cleared for 5-on-5 basketball yet. So let's all slow down, number one. So, he's not great at playing with injuries as it is. The guy has always been he's been banged up, for 7 years now. So, I think it's dangerous to make that commitment to Kawhi. I see them being a sexy pick. But what concerns me about the Clippers and the reason I wouldn't pick them to win the title is, okay, Doc Rivers was obviously an issue. When he was there, he obviously couldn't figure out what to do with them. They bring Ty Lue in. And by the way, this is a credit to how good Tyronn Lue is as a coach. He's playing every possible lineup you can. He's mixing and matching, putting different guys out there. Well, all right, we'll try this guy. Okay, well, we won't play Zubats anymore. We'll play Terrence Mann. He's doing everything he can possibly do in the 2021 playoffs to get them as far as they got, okay? It took them 7 games to beat Dallas. Some of those games they weren't even really competitive in, okay?
Yep.
They managed to beat Utah. Utah has a 25-point lead on them in Game 5 or Game 6, whatever game it was. Without Kawhi, they go on some ridiculous comeback to win the series. Okay, and then against Phoenix, they lost because they didn't have Kawhi. I get it, but it's like I don't have a whole lot of belief in the Clippers. I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, they're not. I don't think they're like a juggernaut who's clearly okay, on first things first, you have to remember that like these professional commentators, they have it in for certain teams and there's certain teams they like. Nick Wright does not like the Golden State Warriors. He never likes the Golden State Warriors. He never likes to give them credit. He literally, it's like pains him when they win stuff. Okay, so he's like, well, the Warriors clearly they're not the top favorite. It's Dallas and the Clippers, and I'm just like, dude, you're just being a prick. Okay, now look, the Clippers. The one thing that I was getting annoyed with is, yes, Paul George was terrible in the bubble. Okay, and the Clippers were bad in the bubble, but okay, that was 2020. Okay,
right.
They had this thing called the 2021 NBA playoffs, where Kawhi went out, and then Paul George in Game 5 against Utah was awesome. He scored like 37 points, okay? He was awesome in the series against Phoenix.
Yeah.
And literally, if DeMarcus Cousins didn't blow that inbound late in Game 2, the Clippers probably would have won that game. It would have been 1-1 going back to Los Angeles for Game 3 in the Western Conference Finals in 2021. So when people are still acting like there's questions about Paul George, yeah, I still have some questions, but without Kawhi, he was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So, could they win the championship? Yeah, sure. And I like having, they have Ty Lue there, and you can see, in that Utah series, they had kind of figured it out, and then Kawhi got hurt. Now, the question I have is, can they get back to that point in the playoffs? Because you can't just pick up where you left off. That's kind of tough. That's kind of what I have a question about. But I think it's possible. So, sure, it's not far out of the realm of possibility, but I don't understand how you can pick them over the Warriors, who just won the championship, and they have young guys who are getting better, and Klay Thompson's going to be better next year. So I don't, and Dallas is good, but they did lose Jalen Brunson. I think that's going to hurt them a little bit, and it's not like there's some juggernaut team. Luka basically has to score over 30 points a game for them to win. So it's kind of
Yeah, Dallas is still kind of building something. I think it would be clueless to after what we've seen the past 3 years, to not have the Warriors as the best team in the West. They've got everybody back, and they have young players who are going to get better. Like, there's not a whole lot of teams that can say that. Like, it's really, I mean, who else out there has that kind of thing? Now, if you're asking me, now, I really like Denver. I think Denver is going to be really good, you know, because I think, you know, Murray got hurt in March, so he's going to have more than a year and a half before next season starts. So I really like that. And then it just comes down to, is Porter going to be able to play? Michael Porter Jr. going to be able to play? Because, you know, if he comes off the back injury, they still have Aaron Gordon. You know, they got, like I said, they got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and they got Bruce Brown from Brooklyn. So to me, like, if you're asking me, I don't have any reason to put the Clippers ahead of Denver. Because it's the same thing. You're basically hoping these guys coming off injury are going to deliver. Well, you know, if you're asking me, I'd rather take Denver's team. Like, I know the Clippers have this unique team for the way teams play now. It's small ball and all this stuff. I get it. But I know they're a sexy pick, but, you know, to me it's Golden State and Milwaukee they should be the co-favorites, you know, to win the title. Like, you know, I don't agree with Nick Wright acting like Milwaukee's a juggernaut, and I don't like anybody else acting like the Warriors are a juggernaut. Like, there's no unbelievable team that, oh my God, we can't beat them, you know, and all of this. If both those teams, if they're fully loaded, I think those are the two best teams.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought it was quite entertaining to watch 20 minutes of people just, you know, telling us how great the Clippers are, and then just crushing them after they lose in Game 7 to Denver. That was unique. It was very unique. I don't know that I've ever seen a collapse like that, where 3 games in a row you had double-digit leads in the second half and lost all 3 games.
You know. That was.
So anyway, so that's my NBA rabbit hole for this week.
Yeah.
So,
well, to be honest, I'll just throw something in real quick. I was at Duffy's yesterday, which, for people who don't live in South Florida, Duffy's is a chain restaurant that's like a sports bar, and they have football helmets all over the restaurant. They have like pictures of different moments in sports history. They had we're in South Florida, so they had a picture of. It was a really awesome shot. It was looking up as Ray Allen was shooting the 3 from the corner, and Tony Parker's up like this, like trying to contest the shot. You know, Ray Allen hit the shot to tie Game 6 in 2013, which, you know, obviously as Miami Heat fans, that's like a moment that will forever be burned into your memory, you know. So.
Yeah, incredible. All right, anything else sports-wise before we move on to our draft?
I can't. Yeah, it's a slow time, you know.
But yeah, you know, we'll looking forward to you know, training camps. Start at the end of this month. So everybody will be, as if we weren't talking about a lot of football now. Everybody and their mother will be addicted to football by then. You know, we'll be mainlining it at that point. Okay. So, good suggestion from Clark today for this week's draft. We're going to do our top 5 favorite movie opening scenes. Yeah. So,
stuff that we like the best, not necessarily objectively we think this is the best opening scene in a movie.
Right. All right.
Yeah, so I was watching. I was watching Rocky 3 yesterday, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. But I was just like, man, I tried to start thinking about other beginnings of movies that I thought were really great. So
okay, so all right, so top 5. All right, so I think you started last week, so I'll start this week. Okay. All right, so I am gonna go. Yeah. This is really one of my favorites. I'm gonna go with the opening scene to the Quentin Tarantino movie, Pulp Fiction.
That's a good one. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's a really good one.
Yeah, they do the whole. It's them at the
diner.
The diner,
You know, and they're
right.
talking about the robbery. Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Roth is talking to, I don't know who the actress's name is, but, they're talking about, how they're going to steal money from everybody, whatever. And then basically he jumps up and he says, all right, everybody be cool. This is a robbery. And then the woman has a crazy line about executing every last one of you motherfuckers. And then they open with the song.
With the Dick Dale Miserloo.
Yeah. So to me, from the opening scene all the way through the song, all the way through the credits, to me it's spectacular. Like now, Quentin Tarantino does this with a lot of his movies. A lot of them open like that. They have really good openings, but this is just it jumped into my mind as one of my favorites.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, there's several I could go with, so okay. I'm actually gonna reverse this. I'm going to do number one. I'm going to do the best one. I'm going to do number one. No, I'll save that for later. Number one, I'll go Saving Private Ryan.
Okay.
Because remember, it starts off. It's D-Day. It's the invasion of Normandy, and it's just you start off. You see the whatever those boats were called, the duck boats or whatever, going toward the shore. And you're like, oh shit, it's about to go down. And like, you see Tom Hanks, and then the guys in front of him, like 6 of them just get shot immediately. And then it's just insanity, them trying to get onto the beach and the whole thing. So yeah, it was just Steven Spielberg, obviously one of the best directors of all time. I mean, just an incredible way to start a movie, because it just like, you're like, just holy shit. And it just pulls you right into the movie.
Yeah, no, that is a really good one. And if anybody's ever played the new Call of Duty game that came out a few years ago, World War II, that's what the game opens, where you have to storm the beach at Normandy. Yeah, I don't know how anyone survived that. It's insanity. I have no clue.
Well, because the Germans had the elevated positions on the cliff on the beach shooting down at you, and that's like that's a death trap essentially.
Yeah, absolutely insane. All right, so I'm gonna pick another classic, and this movie is basically regarded as the first summer blockbuster. It's a long time ago, but the opening scene to Jaws. If you want to go movie history wise, that is kind of Jaws basically created the summer blockbuster, and they set the way movies were after that. And Jaws is Spielberg, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's another Spielberg classic, woman swimming out in the ocean and gets eaten by the shark. And that just, that just grabs you to me right off the bat.
Right. All right. I think next I'll go with, I think I'm going to go with. Oh man, that's tough. I guess I'll put Star Wars in there. I'll put the first Star Wars movie, because you start off, and it's, especially if you read different stuff about that movie, like the fact that they got the intro part to look like that. I mean, just with the you have the John Williams score, and then like the Star Wars thing, shoots up the screen, and it's like, whoa. And you see all the stuff coming up, and then the obviously the Star Destroyer chasing the ship over the planet, and this is made in 1977. You're like, how and the way that they do it, where you see the little ship fly by, and then you see the Star Destroyer come in, and the Star Destroyer is so much bigger than the other ship. So it's just kind of a great way. You're like, oh man, like it just gets you right into the movie.
Yeah, the ship flies right overhead. And, you'd think there's nothing there. And so it kind of shocks you at first. And then, and you're right about the timing. Like it was not like there's a million movies like that back then. This was revolutionary, Yeah.
And the music itself was, I mean, obviously the music during the opening crawl was really good. And it kind of like the way, I'm remembering the shot now. So the credits, the opening crawl goes up, and then it fades away, and then the camera pans down, and then it's like there's a planet, and then there's like a moon or something, and then it's just boom, and then it just comes right onto the screen. Yeah. So it was a really great way to start a movie.
Yeah, spectacular. In that same vein, another movie about space that that now is famous to everybody, and I think kind of started how you're going to shoot movies and show what space looks like, in that 2001: A Space Odyssey. When that comes in and it da da da, it.
Oh, is that with that's with the chimp the chimps where they're like, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it shows the space. It shows the bone, kind of. I think it's a bone, like kind of floating across the sky or whatever. And it's long, but it's one of those things. And remember when that movie was made, we didn't really know what space looked like.
Yeah.
So it's
that's a good
masterpiece by Kubrick.
All right. Stanley Kubrick. All right. Yep. So that was your third one. Okay. I'm gonna put. What was? Hang on. I had. What was the other one? Rocky and there's another one I can't think of. I'm going to put Rocky 3 on there.
Okay.
Because that was the original reason for doing this. So I was watching Rocky 3 yesterday, and I love that opening scene. It starts with the end of Rocky 2, where Rocky barely beats Apollo Creed and he wins the title, and they do that, and then you start off with the Eye of the Tiger. And it shows him. It's a montage of him doing all the title defenses, and he's doing all these commercials, and he's big time now because he's the champion. But yeah, I just thought that was like a great. It's just a great way to pull you into the movie because you immediately understand what's going on, because Rocky 2 is like he has a fight with Apollo, and then he's trying to do some different commercials and make some things happen, and it's not really happening. His wife has the kid, but then she's in the hospital. So he's just kind of like, it's like, I got to win this fight. Like, I got to figure this out. So he barely wins the fight. It's like, okay. But then Rocky 3, it's like, no. Now he's like a big deal. He's not, this is not the same Rocky from the first two movies. So, and plus, I mean, that's just an awesome song. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah. Listen, you're going to talk about things that grab you right off the bat. I mean, how much money and attention when you write a song that gets into a movie that everybody knows, and now you're linked to that movie forever. You cannot hear Eye of the Tiger and not think of Rocky.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's not possible. Like, there's no way. Nobody, I realize all the young people listening to it have no idea what I'm talking about. But, there's no way you can, if you're, above 30 years old or older, there's just no possible way. You're not
the other thing is the montage introduces you to Clubber Lang, Mr. T's character. And it's just like, oh my God, this guy's insane. This guy's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go. With another classic movie that everybody's seen a million times probably at this point. But I think, and as far as rewatchable scenes go, this movie has, a lot of them. So I'm going to go with the Francis Ford Coppola classic, The Godfather, where it opens with the song, and then the guy says, "I believe in America." And he tells this whole the way it's shot, like what we're talking about, like they show him like close up of his face, and then as you go, it slowly pulls back to where you can see, okay, Marlon Brando's. You can kind of see the back of Marlon Brando while he's kind of stroking his cat there, and then they finally show the opening scene when they first show Brando like that. It's just like, whoa. Like and the thing is, they purposely do that so he has a presence, so it takes a minute or two before you get to where you can see, and the room's really dark. They purposely have it really dark so to me, it's just one of those scenes, that I'm always going to remember. And it really sets up how big a deal, Brando was in that movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. I couldn't remember exactly how it opened. I was trying to remember if there was something before that, but no, it's like that. Okay.
Yeah, it opens with a song, and then they show the Godfather on the screen, and it takes they play the song for a little while. Like in and this was made in 1972, so back then they used to take their time when opening the movie, and they didn't have like this whole opening where they showed the credits and all. It was just kind of like they gave you a little bit of an intro, and then boom, you're in the movie.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, I'm trying to. Which one am I going to do? Okay. All right. I got to put something from Scorsese in here. Now, there's a few choices.
Absolutely.
I could go with Goodfellas, but I'm actually going to go with Casino, because if you remember Casino, I think De Niro's like narrating a little bit. I can't remember exactly if he starts narrating, or I think it's just he walks out of a building, gets into a car, and then the car blows up.
Right.
And so now later on you learn he didn't actually die in that thing, but it's like holy shit,
Right.
Yeah. So that's obviously Goodfellas honorable mention. I mean that's a really good one too, where they're driving in the car, and then they get the guy. Then they open up the trunk, and the guy's half dead in there, and they kill him, and then Ray Liotta. All my life I wanted to be a gangster,
Yeah,
and then it starts playing that song. I could go from rags to riches.
Right, Tony Bennett, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. But I'll take Casino just because of the explosion, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that grabs you right off the bat. All right, so this one is one of my favorites. Not necessarily like it's not going down in cinema lore necessarily, but this one to me is a really big deal because it opens a franchise. And that's the opening scene to Raiders of the Lost Ark. When he goes to the thing and has to put the sand in place of the little statue, whatever. It's not really a statue, but the little gold thing, and then he has to run, and the big ball goes out, and then he has to escape from and get into the seaplane, and then they roll the dun 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 dun. To me, it's just. That scene is just, one of those things.
Well, the other thing about that whole thing, it kind of like, it starts off, I don't want to say it starts off one way and goes a different way, but it's like, it starts off at first you don't see Harrison Ford, right? And then remember they're walking toward where the temple is, and someone pulls a gun out or something, he pulls the whip out and slaps it out of his hand, you're like, oh, this guy's a badass. And they're going through the temple and he's avoiding all the stuff, and then he like walks up to the thing and then he replaces the statue, and it's like, oh, this guy's a badass. And then the temple starts just, crumbling down. He has to kind of run away from it, and he has to the guy takes his whip from him, and he has to jump across the thing, and it's.
Yeah, and honestly, that was 1981. Like, it's not like we had a lot of movies where they did that. I mean, it was like kind of a Western, but kind of, but also kind of the way modern action movies are done. And, like you said, it's a very good point. Not showing his face until, about halfway through the scene. And, so that makes it even bigger than it was.
All right. So that was number 5?
For me, yeah.
Okay. All right, this is tough. I'm going to...
Yeah, one more spot left.
I just thought of one, and I'm going to actually put this as number 5. I was going to put Rounders as number 5, because remember how Rounders starts? Here's the thing. If you can't spot the sucker within the first half hour at the table, then you are the sucker. And he's walking into the Teddy KGB's place, which is a totally awesome scene. But I'm actually going to go with a different one just because, I don't want to just give everybody stuff that they might already think of. The opening to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh,
now this is an older movie, so like you're saying about The Godfather, it starts off more slowly, but basically it's like a wide shot, and there's like a well, and there's something like bobbing up and down. It's making a noise in the background. Everything else is quiet, right? There's just a little noise in the background, and then there's some I don't even know what to call it. Just some people on over here, and there's some people over there, and they're trying to go get somebody, and they're kind of looking at each other. They're like waiting, and then they start walking closer and closer and closer, and then it all happens really, really fast. They run into the room, and then there's a bunch of gunshots, and then somebody runs out, and it's Tuco, and I think they have they put him as the Ugly or something like that, and then it starts playing that score,
Yeah, it's on. I'm looking at this list of top 50 movie scenes. It's the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, and now again, that's an older movie, so it's slow, and you really got to watch and pay attention to how they, because it starts off with like wide shots, and then they start kind of editing quicker to like speed up the pace, and then it culminates in when they all run into that room, and then there's all those gunshots, and someone jumps out a window.
Yeah, 1996 or 1966. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back over our top 10. So Pulp Fiction, number 1, Saving Private Ryan, Jaws, Star Wars, the 1977 Star Wars, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Rocky III, The Godfather, Casino, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Any honorable mentions for you?
I mean, I said Rounders. I would say Goodfellas. Those are both good. God, that's tough.
I mean, this is basically like what movie do you like? But the opening scene of The Big Lebowski, I think, is pretty good. If you're just talking about really movies that are fun. I like going back to Quentin Tarantino. I mean, my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie is Inglourious Bastards, and so to me, the opening scene
intro
for that,
with the Nazi guy,
Christoph Waltz comes in and is just, oh my god, incredible villain. You're scared to death as you're watching the whole scene. You're just sphincters are clenched.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty good. I mean, Kill Bill, the beginning of Kill Bill, where she gets he's talking to her and then he shoots her in the head.
Yep.
And she's like, "It's your baby." Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and right, and it's a good point because you don't know anything that's going on. You have no idea why, who, what, exactly. Where. Yeah. You have no clue. Like, what is happening? I mean, I wrote down American Beauty just because I just like the opening scene with the where he's talking about and it ends at a certain point. He says, I'm blah blah blah, and in however many days I'll be dead, and he just talks about and it shows this overhead, basically probably from a helicopter shot of the neighborhood that they live in, and so yeah, I thought that was a good scene. But yeah, once I saw Jaws, I couldn't go without mentioning Jaws. To me, that just sets up the next 50 years of movie making. With that scene.
Yep.
I looked on this list here. They got The Matrix.
I'm trying to think of how The Matrix opens. That's pretty good. I mean, it's not I didn't think it's like totally incredible, but I mean, it's pretty good.
I can't remember how does it.
Wait, which one was it again? I'm sorry, I'm looking at a bunch of them.
The Matrix.
There's Trinity is talking to somebody.
Oh, right.
And then the police are coming, and then she has to get out of there, and she runs away from them, and it's like a chase scene.
And they arrest.
There's some people put the beginning of Jurassic Park, and that was good. I like. There's other scenes in that I feel like are better.
Right. Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be the best scene of a movie, but yeah, I feel like I think we did a pretty darn good job. I think most of those movies would be on just about anybody's list.
Yeah, I could have said Wolf of Wall Street. I like that the way that one starts off. It's just complete insanity. But yeah. God, they really have some. I'm looking on BuzzFeed, and they have a bunch of these. I'm like, really, you're putting that as a good intro to a movie? Like, I mean, they put The Lion King on there, the animated one, and that's probably pretty good. That's actually a pretty good. I can remember that briefly. It's just it had that whole song and like all the stuff going on. Like, that's actually probably one of the best animated opening scenes you've ever seen. Probably.
Yeah. No, nothing bad. It's just it's not going to make my top.
Exactly.
Top 25 list probably. All right. So I'm trying to think. We got the British Open starts this week, but there's not really a whole lot of sporting events going on.
Is anybody kicked out because of the live golf thing?
No. No, they can still play. They're all going to play in the British Open.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. You brought that up. Like, I think it's calmed down recently in that, but Billy Horschel, one of the guys on tour, basically ripped all the Live Golf players and said, you guys don't want to support the PGA Tour, fine, then go do your own thing, but you can't do both, and it's just kind of like, it's kind of ridiculous because it's like, well, why not? Why can't they play in both? I don't understand. Like, that's it. You're not good for us anymore. And Rory McIlroy basically came out and said, look, I think it's going to get figured out. And I think this probably in the long run, this is going to be good for golf because the PGA Tour needed to change some things that they did and adapt. So it's like, I think we're finally getting some sanity into the discourse about it.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right, folks. Thank you everybody for watching, listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you